It's Thursday, January 5th, and this is now on HNN.
You have the right to be represented by a lawyer.
The suspect in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students just appeared in court for the first time since being extradited from Pennsylvania. And due to be in front of a judge in just minutes, the woman who allegedly confessed to her boyfriend that she killed their baby on Hawaii Island.
Elected officials don't seem to learn the lessons that people that have come before us.
The FBI's special agent in charge for Honolulu says rooting out public corruption is priority number 1 for this new year. So we got all these stories plus.
Mentally exhausting.
2 weeks after Southwest's holiday meltdown, some customers still don't have their luggage back. That story coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching. This is Now. You got Jonathan and Dylan right here in the H&N Digital Center. Want to take you live now to Washington, D.C. We're looking at the House floor at this very moment. Major development of non-developments, I should say, coming out of the House floor. Kevin McCarthy, yet again, defeated in a 9th round of voting for House Speaker.
Yep, this is another day without a solid decision on who's going to lead the House. He lost multiple votes to Reps Byron Donalds and Kevin Hern, and a 10th round of voting would make this the longest speaker contest in 164 years. H&N's Washington correspondent Peter Zampa has more.
Yeah, Dylan, good to be with you. It's still rowing the boat for Kevin McCarthy and his supporters. The big thing for McCarthy today, he's not really losing more votes. He's just kind of continuing on, trying to negotiate his way out of this impasse. The bad news for McCarthy, he still has folks who say they will never vote for him. And the amount of people saying that could just be too many to overcome. So he's going to try to negotiate in these back rooms. He's going to get his deputies to do so as well. A lot of other people who might be more popular than him with this group of defectors, but it's just continue to negotiate, don't lose any more votes, and keep rowing the boat. He said he's willing to battle this out for as long as it takes.
Right now, business on Capitol Hill is at a standstill. I mean, the House is in a stalemate. First off, how long can something like this go on? And what sort of negotiations are happening on the sidelines to break this stalemate?
Yeah, Dylan, unfortunately for the first answer, it can go on for as long as it needs to. History tells us that it can go on for months and months. Hopefully that doesn't happen for the sake of the House, for the sake of the American people, so we can start legislating and holding hearings. But the negotiations, I mean, it's a lot of classic political horse trading. And some of these Republicans involved will tell you this is how politics is supposed to work. You give me a little something, I'll give you a vote. And it could involve things like policy items, talking about balancing the budget, making sure we don't have massive spending bills like we've seen in the past. And also things like term limits potentially coming up, but also committee assignments. And that's where it gets a little hairy for Kevin McCarthy and his deputies. If they start offering things to people who are basically holding this chamber and this vote hostage, what is that going to look like to the loyalists who are standing by McCarthy, who don't get anything out of being loyal? So it's a tricky political waters to row through, and McCarthy's trying to do it.
Now, on the Democratic side, they have been steadfast in nominating Rep. Jeffries, but on the Republican side, there are multiple names on the ballot. Can you tell us who McCarthy is up against, and who else do you think should step up and be nominated and possibly take the role?
Yeah, well, it depends on the vote. I mean, we've gone through so many of these things so far. We've seen multiple names out there. The first big one was Jim Jordan, who says he doesn't want it. So since then, the detractors have stopped putting him up for nomination. But we've also seen Byron Donalds from Florida. He's a young congressman who folks are trying to get behind on this. But also Kevin Hern. He's one of the later ones who's in control of the Republican Study Committee. They control a lot of the GOP policy agenda in Congress. So it's a big post for him to hold. And Lauren Boebert Gilbert is the one who put him forward. So we are seeing a mixture of names, but really for the other side, for these detractors, they're sort of putting forth these other people to make a symbolic gesture to show that it's going to be people who aren't Kevin McCarthy, and that's it. That's all you need to know. We're going to keep putting forth multiple names, but just not Kevin McCarthy. And so that's what Kevin McCarthy's up against.
Another day to keep an eye on. Thank you so much, Peter Zampa, our Hawaii News Now Washington correspondent. Thanks for being here on This Is Now.
Also breaking at this hour, the suspect in those brutal murders of 4 Idaho college students just appeared in court. This as court documents reveal new details about the investigation. Dan Shinneman has the latest.
Brian Koberger walked into a courtroom in Idaho to face 4 counts of first-degree murder.
The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life.
Koberger is accused of stabbing and killing 4 University of Idaho students inside a home in Moscow back in November.
Mr. Koberger, you will be remanded in custody and remain in custody on the no bail.
There are also newly released court records about the case. Those records indicate one of the housemates who was in the house at the time of the killings came into contact with the alleged killer before he left the home. Court records also say a knife sheath was discovered at the scene next to one of the victims and DNA discovered on the sheath. Police then tracked Koberger with the help of cell phone records to his parents' home in Pennsylvania and found matching DNA on the trash collected at that home. Last week, Koberger was taken into custody in Pennsylvania without incident. According to his Pennsylvania attorney, Koberger intends to plead not guilty.
He believes he's going to be exonerated.
Koberger was flown back to Idaho Wednesday night, but it's still not clear what, if any, connection he had to the victims or what could have been his motive. Dan Shenneman, NBC News.
An investigation is underway into the suspicious death of a 5-month-old on Hawaii Island. Now, the mother suspected in the child's death remains behind bars on a separate domestic violence dispute. The morning of New Year's Eve, police said 21-year-old Yasmin Butterfield of Kalapana, along with the child's 20-year-old father, sought help after their child became unresponsive. The baby was pronounced dead at Hilo Medical Center just before 6 a.m. The exact cause is unknown. Police said Butterfield and her boyfriend got into an argument later that day regarding their son's death. The father told police that Butterfield struck him several times with a wooden block, a metal broomstick, and threatened him with a knife when he attempted to leave, and also stopped him from calling for help. No charges have been filed regarding the infant's death. Butterfield is set to appear in court around 12:45 today. Bail is set at $43,000.
All right, even more breaking news coming into the H&N Digital Center. Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin is said to be improving. There was just a press conference held a short time ago. You'll recall Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest and received CPR on the field Monday night during the game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I want to play out some of that press conference. Here's what was said.
They've been giving us updates, or Damar's doctors have been giving our doctors updates, Dr. Bisson here in town, and then the updates have flowed basically through either Brandon and Nate or Dr. Bisson or directly from Damar's doctors, and the news has been very encouraging as we all are up to date at this point, and just extremely grateful.
Hurt for your brother, a lot of shared grief, but to the question before, getting updates and positive updates eases so much of that pain and that tension that you feel, but Coach handled it as perfect as anybody could.
All right, as you know, the FBI deals with all sorts of illegal activity worldwide, but here in Hawaii, one issue really gets the most attention. Our Lynn Kawano sat down with the local office chief to find out more about that and his priorities for 2023.
Here in Hawaii, the FBI's #1 criminal investigative pursuit is always going to be fighting against corruption.
Special Agent in Charge Stephen Merrill has only been head of the Hawaii office for 18 months. In that time, there have been numerous high-profile officials arrested. Last year, a state senator, representative, and other Maui County officials all pleaded guilty in a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme involving a businessman. And on Oahu, former city officials were indicted on conspiracy charges relating to the questionable payoff of the disgraced police chief. Months later, another alleged bribery scheme involving the longtime Honolulu prosecuting attorney and several others from an engineering firm.
Elected officials don't seem to learn the lessons that people that have come before us. We vote for elected officials and we expect them to do their job, and we expect them to serve us, the public.
Merrill says another issue his agents are also focused on: online crimes against the most vulnerable, the keiki and kupuna. While cyber issues are not unique to Hawaii, Hawaii businesses seem less open to ask for law enforcement's help.
This area probably has a lot more cybercrime that is being reported. The companies don't always feel comfortable with coming forward to us or any other agency with the fact that they had to pay ransomware or that they had a denial of service because it's embarrassing to their reputation, to their brand.
He hopes that attitude changes as more businesses are targeted in the months ahead. Drug and gun crimes are also on the radar for the Hawaii FBI office, but white-collar crimes will continue to get the most attention this new year. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Lynn, for that report. All right, let's get you a first alert live picture right now of a weather situation that's going on in California. And check this out. Looking pretty gloomy there in Sacramento, California. What they're dealing with, Dylan, is a pineapple express, is one of the terms for it. That's when all that moisture in the atmosphere heads from our area right there for the West Coast and sometimes slams them with severe weather, and that's what we've been seeing over the past couple of days.
Yeah, definitely some dangerous conditions out there. If you have friends or family, check on them, make sure they are okay. We do know a number of warnings and watches there are issued, but let's take a look here at our own weather. Nothing severe. Our Billy V has today's first alert forecast.
Of course, we had those showers yesterday. It was over on the windward side, very wet, and we're expecting some of that shower activity to happen today, but not to the degree that it was. It'll be lighter rainfall. And then, of course, today we've got those light winds as well. Daytime high near 81 degrees. So after today, let's talk about tomorrow getting into the weekend. Easterly winds, mostly sunny skies, dry conditions, lots of sunshine. So for the next 5 days here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that takes us all the way to next week, Tuesday. Nothing but just wonderful. It's going to be great. Sunshine and light trade winds and comfortable temperatures. That's going to make for some pretty nice conditions. So that's your 7-day forecast.
Crowds gathered today for the funeral of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Now, Pope Francis led the farewell to his predecessor, which has never been done in modern times. Delia Gallagher has more from the Vatican.
Veiled by fog, the sun rose on St. Peter's Square just as it set on the life of the Pope Emeritus, Benedict XVI. Hours before the ceremony began, a dash by the faithful for prime placement. After nearly 200,000 saw the former Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger lying in state over 3 days. This morning, he was brought out one final time. 50,000 filled St. Peter's Square to honor the first pope to resign his position in more than half a millennium. A muted crowd, a smaller ceremony following Benedict's own wishes. Attended by just a handful of dignitaries. Modest compared to the some 1.1 million who turned out for the last papal funeral of John Paul II, over which Cardinal Ratzinger himself presided in 2005. Thursday's funeral marked an extraordinary moment, unique in Catholic history, a pope presiding over the funeral of a predecessor who resigned the post. It was a far cry from the last time a pope lived to see his successor. Pope Celestine V was thrown in jail by his successor when he resigned in 1294. Pope Francis, far more liberal to Benedict's conservatism, showed enduring respect for his fellow Catholic and delivered the homily.
Benedict, faithful friend of the bridegroom, may your joy be complete as you hear his voice, now and forever.
In so many ways, a ceremony utterly familiar to any Catholic, which paid tribute to the global faithful whom Pope Francis, the first pope from the And as Pope Francis pleaded with the Virgin Mary to show Benedict comfort, the ceremony was brought to a close. Santo subito, the crowd urged, make him a saint now, just as they chanted for John Paul II before him. Benedict, blessed by Francis and carried by the papal gentleman, brought to St. Peter's Basilica. His coffin, sealed in zinc, and a second wood coffin, buried in the Vatican grottos alongside scores of his forebearers. Delia Gallagher, CNN, Vatican City.
We've learned that Macy's is closing its Kaneohe location at Windward Mall. It's happening this spring. It's among 4 stores across the country shutting down as part of a 3-year plan. Macy's first announced their plan to close over 100 stores in 2020. Now we've got much more written up about this story. A lot of people talking about it online on your H&N digital platforms. Unraveling your traveling time, Southwest Airlines is still trying to reconnect so many passengers with their lost luggage. This is all part of that meltdown that went down over the holiday peak season where we saw thousands of flights canceled. Pete Montaigne of CNN filed this report.
It was supposed to be a perfect holiday for Toya Martin of Maryland. Instead, she spent almost 2 weeks searching for her family's 3 lost bags.
2 words. Mentally exhausting.
Martin says Southwest Airlines lost the checked baggage of her nephew and mother who flew in from St. Louis. In one of her mom's suitcases, critical medical supplies needed for her colostomy bag.
It's like being lost, like you're in the middle of an ocean with no way to get back. And they're just looking at you saying, we don't know what to tell you.
Southwest is telling passengers that it is returning lost luggage with great urgency, using FedEx and even competing airlines to transport bags. The pile of unclaimed bags at Southwest's Baltimore hub has now disappeared, but the pile is still dwindling at airports like Denver, where Southwest canceled 2,300 holiday flights.
Southwest has a lot of work ahead of itself.
Industry expert Ross Feinstein points out Southwest carries the most checked bags of any U.S. airline. It offers passengers 2 checked bags for free. In an employee memo obtained by CNN, Southwest CEO Bob Jordan said the airline has cut the number of bags in half since last Thursday, and we're on track to get the majority, if not all bags, shipped to our customers later this week.
A week and a half, 2 weeks is just unacceptable, and customers are just frustrated trying to track down their bags.
But the issues go beyond just one airline. This week, Valerie Sabala of Washington, D.C. found her bag after it was lost by a United Airlines vendor by using an Apple AirTag.
They kept saying that it was safe in a delivery center, and none of that was true.
The latest federal data shows airlines mishandled 2 million bags in 2021. New numbers are likely to go higher after families like Toya Martin's spent their holiday without bags and without patience for Southwest Airlines.
Southwest was probably one of my favorite airlines to travel on, and it will never be the same.
All right, the internet's certainly still talking about that and a number of other stories, and we've got those handled. What'd you find, Dylan?
Well, let's see here. Actor Jeremy Renner says he's getting pampered in the hospital after his snowplow accident. Renner posted a video on social media Thursday of his sister and his mom giving him a scalp massage. He captioned it, "I see you spa moment to lift my spirits," because we all need a little rest and relaxation, even in the hospital. The Marvel star was injured on New Year's Day while clearing snow from his driveway at his Nevada home. According to the 911 call log, Renner's upper torso was crushed by a snowcat vehicle. He has underwent 2 surgeries and is continuing to recover. So the good news there, he is on a road to recovery and also managing to enjoy his time in the hospital there.
Yeah, even more news coming from the world of Hollywood today.
Yes, another actor made a shocking discovery recently. Edward Norton says he's found that his real life Pocahontas is his 12th great-grandmother. Imagine that. He learned of his family connection to the 17th century daughter of a Native American chief from historian Henry Louis Gates Jr. Gates confirmed Norton's long-standing family rumor on the PBS genealogical show he hosts called Finding Your Roots. Gates said Norton has a direct paper trail to the often romanticized Pocahontas and her husband, Virginia settler John Rolfe. Of course, we all have the image of Pocahontas from the Disney show, but we're talking about the real life Pocahontas here.
An amazing part of American history right there, too. That show gets a lot of buzz. A lot of celebrities have got on there and learned about their roots.
And something else, Norton also discovered that his third great-grandfather unfortunately was a slave owner, and that was a realization that Norton says left him understandably uncomfortable.
All right, guys, we want to switch gears now and get you to some programming notes, some really good news now programming notes, because come Monday, there's this huge, and I mean 3 hours huge primetime event. Yeah, primetime event on KGMB. It's the NCIS crossover, which has so many local ties to here in Hawaii with NCIS Hawaii, of course. And guess what? We've got the preview for you. Here you go.
Seriously, how do you guys work here?
What do you mean?
It's big stuff. We've never done a crossover with these 3 shows. It's gonna be all in one night.
You're gonna see NCIS, then NCIS Hawaii, and then NCIS LA. It takes 3 hours to tell this storyline.
Well,
and
it was a big case.
To travel
It was
around
too big for one team.
Someone called the Guinness Book of Records. I think we have the most senior field agents at a crime scene.
NCIS fans will be able to dive into the NCIS verse.
To coexist in the same world is something that I feel like the fans have been waiting for a while.
It's great because it plays like a movie.
We've never done anything quite like this, so this is gonna be fun.
Whatever we stepped into, it's big.
The reason that we all come together is because there are some kidnappings.
We are tracking some very elusive people, and I'm not even sure how many people it is.
It's something to do with a sort of CIA operation of assassins.
You have so many do-gooders and go-getters. We're all on the case together.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Damn, Jimmy.
There are a lot of amazing actors from the other parts of this franchise that I have always wanted to be working with.
But in a cool way, it feels very familial.
There is this friendship and closeness and that relationship that is like fun for the audience to see, fun for us to do.
There's a reason I think that we're all under the same franchise umbrella. We all are cut from the same cloth.
No, all in all, I think it went pretty well. We should maybe think about doing this again sometime.
Yeah, hard pass. It's just a blast, man. We're just having a great time.
This is a 3-way crossover. That's crazy.
Seeing another universe meld into another universe. It's like Spider-Man swinging into like Batman.
It just brings a different energy.
And as they say in NCIS, one team, one fight.
It's the NCIS verse, baby. We do this. We do this.
Again, that special crossover is taking place on Monday on our sister station, KGMB, a 3-hour event. You don't want to miss it. Got to get to some breaking news coming into the H&N Digital Center at this very moment. Let's take you live to Washington, D.C. yet again, where we have just learned these details in regards to the voting for the House Speaker. Kevin McCarthy appears to again suffered another defeat in this now 10th round of voting for House Speaker, now making it the longest contest in generations.
Yes, again, we've been tracking this all day. This has gone on, as you heard, to 10 rounds now. The stalemate continues there on Capitol Hill. Rep. Hearn and Rep. Donalds also on the Republican side being nominated, but the votes are just not there to get this issue moved forward. On the Democratic side, Rep. Jeffries with last check about 70, 80 votes. Rep. McCarthy in the 72. This is the 10th round of voting, and it appears once again that he has lost in round 10.
So what happens next? Well, we'll just have to wait and see, and that's why you need to wait and see first at 4 on KHNL. But don't worry, we'll keep updating the story on your H&N digital platforms all afternoon long, so keep checking them to get those latest details. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Aloha.